AIDS 40 years later.
1981 marks the start of the AIDS epidemic. People were terrified of catching the disease. And while doctors, the federal government, even news outlets shunned the gay community, there were few journalists putting a spotlight on this epidemic. In part 3 of my 5-part series leading up to the Steve Chase Humanitarian Awards this weekend, I sit down with one of the first reporters to cover the AIDS epidemic. He now lives right here in the Coachella Valley.
Tonight on 5 Reports,
Hank?
Hank, I'm here at UCSF where the AIDS Research Institute really was launched with a bang today. Now about the survey, this new information comes from one of 4 ongoing studies.
Hank Plante is a respected journalist and has a long history in TV news.
So I was a general assignment reporter for a TV station in Los Angeles and also an anchor.
But in 1981, he was reporting for a station in San Francisco. He was also one of the first openly gay TV reporters in America.
People are tired of it. Health workers are tired of it.
Little did he know he would be reporting from ground zero of one of the most horrific epidemics, AIDS.
But it was horrible in the beginning. It really was terrible. People have no idea.
As AIDS quickly spread through the gay community, Plante's reporting was more important than ever before.
I basically covered it for a year straight, every night.
The world's highest concentration of AIDS is in this city.
He covered it so much, his station became labeled the AIDS Channel.
Eyewitness News has spent the past 5 months investigating all of this.
The TV news networks, it was a year before they did even a single story on this new strange disease, 1 year after the CDC reported it.
Some people at his own news station challenged the mere idea of reporting on it.
Not the management, but other workers who thought this is going to hurt our ratings. We're covering AIDS every night here, putting gay people on TV every night, and putting ill gay people on TV every night.
And the discrimination was worse in person.
Nobody knew how it was transmitted. People were losing their jobs, being fired from their jobs. There was a guy who worked for a big company in San Francisco, of all places, who died. After he died, they took his desk out to the parking lot and burned it.
People were disgusted and afraid.
Where do you go when your own country doesn't want you, you know?
There was a lot of fear around it. There was a lot of hatred and bigotry around it.
It wasn't until the famous contracted the virus that people started to pay attention. First came actor Rock Hudson in 1985.
You think an investigation won't prove you and Arthur are having an affair?
But then as HIV/AIDS began to expand beyond the gay community through blood transfusions, even children became infected.
From the very beginning, I said I was going to fight this disease and I was going to win.
Ryan White was diagnosed with AIDS following a bad blood transfusion in 1984. He was just 13 years old and faced intense discrimination.
You know, they were afraid of me, and eventually, you know, it got to the point where they didn't want anything to do with me there. They just wanted to, you know, keep me out no matter what.
Because of his diagnosis, White was banned from school, received death threats, and bullied beyond belief. He died in 1990.
Ryan White's life ended Sunday morning after a 5.5-year battle with AIDS.
And then people really started listening when it spread into the world of sports. It was 1991. Basketball star Magic Johnson announced that he too got the virus.
Sometimes we think, well, only gay people can get it, well, it's not going to happen to me. And here I am saying that it can happen to anybody.
After Johnson's shocking announcement that even a straight, successful man could get HIV, testing centers across the U.S. saw a 10-fold increase in patients.
It was a scary time for all of us. Photographers wouldn't go into a room to do an interview with a person with AIDS. The photographers would shoot it from the hallway, and the reporter would have to go in and hold the microphone.
You know, looking at this wall, all your experiences reporting, I mean, that was a scary time. How did you, as a reporter, manage to go home at the end of the day and not fall apart? It must have been hard.
I did fall apart sometimes at the end of the day after covering people with AIDS, especially if I knew them, if they were friends of mine. But, you know, I felt like I was making a difference, and I felt like I was helping.
He not only made a huge difference, but his reporting was his way of coping during a horrible, horrible time.
And I cared so much more about this than any other story because it was affecting my brothers and sisters.
Hank Plante won a Peabody Award for his reporting on the AIDS crisis. It's the equivalent of the Pulitzer Prize. Tomorrow night at 5, we'll hear more about the Desert AIDS Project and where we are today with the HIV/AIDS virus. Again, this is all part of my 5-part series leading up to the Desert AIDS Project's 25th annual Steve Chase Humanitarian Awards this weekend. All right, coming up after the break, we are joined live in studio with journalist Hank Plante, who you just saw. We'll go more in depth about his experience reporting on the HIV/AIDS crisis in its early days. Stay with us.